Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When it comes to home and auto insurance, it's important to have the right coverage from a company and an agent you can trust. Someone who will help you properly protect the people and things you love most. So if the unexpected happens, you and your family can rest insured. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going well. We are recording this a little ahead of time, but we want to talk about, I think, the state of Kentucky's one of their favorite things, which is March Madness a little bit.
It is, yes. But my family's kind of weird. We're kind of football people.
You're football people.
But we're from Louisiana. Like my parents, I am not. That is a common misconception in this office. Everyone calls me Cajun. I was born in Paducah. But born and raised here, have the sound of the accent, all the things. I'm here. But I was raised by people that were not born here. So we are football, baseball people. We're like, besides Shaq, LSU fans don't really care about basketball. Kim Mulkey made us care about women's, but that's...
For a few minutes.
Yeah, so March Madness is... I'm learning a lot living in Central Kentucky.
Yeah. So I grew up in Louisville.
Okay.
It is a really big deal. It is the largest television market for March Madness. I don't know if you know
Really?
that. It is number one every year.
I did not know this.
Even with all of University of Louisville's fun that they've had the last couple of years until this year, they still are the number one market. There's a lot of Cats fans in Louisville.
But that's like
area.
true basketball fans.
Oh yeah, it is by a lot. I think the second biggest market is like Raleigh, North Carolina, which makes sense.
That's fair.
Also, right?
You would think though, given the last let's say 5 years, that they would have topped Louisville by now.
Still not. Yeah.
Wild.
It's a big deal, and so I grew up being a part of gigantic bracket.
Okay, yeah. Tell me the bracket game. What is it here?
It could be a lot of things. It depends on who you're doing it with and how intense they are about gambling, frankly. But my dad always hosted a giant bracket, right?
Okay.
So it's we had 70, 80 people in this thing.
Oh my gosh.
And you pay $1, you put your bracket in, But no, what you do is you pick and you get points. First round doesn't count as many points because there's more nonsense. You get more points as you go down into the finals, right? So if you get the final four right, you get more points, and so you can lose early, and it's not killing you,
Right. But
it's a lot of fun. It makes you invested just like anything, makes you invested in games that you could care less about for the most part, right? So I always, this is how I always do it. I have what I call the bracket of integrity. Okay, so I stole this line. This is actually from Mike and Mike in the morning.
I love me some Mike and Mike.
Mike Golick had the bracket of integrity is what he called it. So he makes one bracket and puts it in all of the challenges.
I'm remarkably similar. I do not like having multiple.
20 brackets.
Because I don't remember who I'm going for.
He puts one and he called it his. So I've always done that, but I always use that term, the bracket of integrity. So I have one bracket. So it's winner. I'm all in or I'm kind of done. And it's fun when you're doing good because you're in 10 different brackets and you're kind of doing great.
Right.
On 10 different brackets. Or, by midday Friday, you're done.
Okay, so here is the question. I feel like this is something that you grow into. So when you're a kid, UK or U of L fan, pick your poison. You just run your bracket of every team you've ever heard of wins games, and then your ultimate winner, you can immediately just grab UK all the way to the bottom. They win it. Is that the same thing for you when you were a kid? Did you do that with Louisville? And then second question, at what age point do you realize that there are years you need to be realistic and they're just not going to do it?
Yeah, that's hard. Your biases, I think, are always kind of in the bracket a little bit.
Right.
I think the year I was 12 years old when Christian Laettner hit that shot. Okay.
It's a monumental moment.
I was 12 years old. Now, our family grew up U of L fans. We're from Louisville, so we're Louisville fans. But our family was distraught over that game because I think the whole state did. Because there was this cool rebuild of UK that it was getting back to kind of what it is, right? And so I was distraught as a 12-year-old. Never cared about, but that team was so darn likable,
right?
That everyone, I think the country was distraught that the darn Duke Blue Devils won. But I remember that bracket in particular. I had a lot invested in that UK team to make the run it did, but even further than it did, right?
Right.
That game really made me mad.
And that is the moment when you're like, wait a second.
And that was probably the first time, I'm 12, so I'm starting to be realistic. I'm starting to be real about, I'm going to try to win the bracket, instead of just have a bracket, right? Or be biased all in it. So, but yeah, I think still to this day have a lot of I've probably put a little round or two they shouldn't.
Right.
Shouldn't
It's
get
funny.
to,
My
or-
husband is
or
almost
I
the
hate that
dead
team.
polar opposite. Like
Yeah.
he will not, like last year, I don't even know if he gave him 2 games. He was
Right.
just like, it's not there. I'm going for, I put $20 in this bracket pool, daggone it, I'm gonna try to win it. And so he's like, and he's also ultra negative on the team versus me that's like, I don't know, I need to look up some of these guys. Like, is Houston good or not? They were good 2 years ago. Like, and it just drives him crazy. But again, grew up with non-basketball people. But I will say we were in a bracket a couple years ago, and instead of doing a full bracket, you drew your teams. And so, so like everyone gets like, so if there's like 6 people, like you put the 1s and 2 seeds all together and everyone gets a 1 or 2 seed. And then you work your way down. So you could have a team that's like a nobody that you drew that wins 2 games and somebody else gets upset, you're winning. Like you just want to see how far your team can go. I'll tell you what, that one will get you invested.
Yeah.
It's cool. So I don't know. I'm coming around. I compare March Madness to Derby in the sense that I am learning Central Kentucky's vibe here.
Yeah.
So nobody cares about the Derby in West Kentucky. We walk inside from doing work outside. We watch 2 minutes and we go, that's cool. And we walk back out. Over here, it's like a lifestyle.
It is 2 weeks.
I mean, there are parties and all. Same thing with March Madness. We used to fill out a bracket and just turn it into my dad's work. Over here, there's like a gathering. People hang out. Like, people take days off of work to watch the first 2 rounds. I mean, like, it is a whole thing. So I'm learning.
Yeah, I think that, like, U of L particularly being bad has hurt the city of Louisville, literally, in economics. When it comes to restaurants and bars hosting viewings of the games and all of these things, it's hurt. That's how ingrained basketball is in the state, and I know that happens in Lexington.
Oh, guaranteed.
For sure with UK. So it's a big deal in the state. Obviously in Louisville and Lexington, it's probably a little extra. But that's why I bring up that market thing. It is big time in Louisville. And that's why it's like my favorite time of year. And when you don't have anyone to watch, sort of. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun this year. I think both teams are good. Hopefully we're not talking about it and they both lost.
Right. That'll be awkward.
That'll be awkward. But no, I look forward to it. It's a great time of year. But I don't know how we're going to transition to our guests by talking about this topic, but let's go ahead and do that.
Let's think of this. Okay, so when I was a kid, I would sometimes pick these regional schools if they would win, like the Sun Belt or whatever. I'd be like, oh, Murray gets a win. And they would not. They're like a 16 seed. Very rarely would it happen. Morehead's been one of those teams before. They snuck in.
Morehead State beat Louisville in the first round.
They did.
And that was devastating.
So this is our transition to our guest is a current student at Morehead State University.
So
she's wonderful.
Yeah. She was a great guest. She's talking about the Collegiate Farm Bureau. So these have existed, but they're having a resurgence, enhancement. They're getting more and more chapters throughout the state of Kentucky and more kids involved. And her story is extra great about her involvement and how much that's meant to her. And I think our listeners are really going to be interested in, especially one particular part that maybe she didn't know a whole lot about us before the Collegiate Farm Bureau.
Yeah, one of our goals of this podcast is for you to feel like, any listener to feel like, I could be on that podcast. And I think a lot of times people are like, oh, these families are generations of Farm Bureau members. This is a good example of maybe not that. And so truly, anyone that's in the ag community that thinks, oh, man, this is a cool podcast. That person sounds like me. This is a good example of that. So you guys are really going to enjoy Brooklyn. Without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. All right, well, welcome to the show, Brooklyn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So where'd you travel in from today? Where'd you come from?
Today I came from Morehead. I was traveling here from school.
School. So that alludes to why you're here today. So tell us about school. Where do you go and what's your major?
Yeah, so I go to Morehead State University in Morehead, Kentucky. I'm an agribusiness major with a marketing minor. I'm in my second year, but I'm a classified junior. So I went in with so many credits from high school.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing, but I also hate it because I'm like, oh, I don't want to graduate so early. But I love it. I've definitely found my home in Morehead.
So where'd you grow up at? Are you from close to Morehead or not really?
Yeah, so I grew up in Greene County, which is just an hour east. Literally just take 64 an hour east and you're at my house.
There you go.
So that's kind of like what led me to Morehead was how close it was and the family aspect of having the farm so local for all the classes there, and then of course Collegiate Farm Bureau.
Yeah.
So yeah, just being close to home, being able to go home and go back to the family farm whenever I want.
Yeah, let's talk about home. So you said family farm. Talk about your farm. What have you guys been doing there? And where'd you grow up in? What kind of agriculture do you part of?
Yeah, so we just run small scale. We have small herd of cattle that I'm fifth generation farmer in my family. Started all the way back to my great grandparents. We've always ran cattle. I've grown up showing cattle. I also showed goats growing up. And then my cousin has a small little herd of sheep, so I've been able to dabble into that a little bit. But yeah, just your basic family farms, pretty much what we grew up doing. Just helping each other, learning from my dad and my grandparents.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. We've talked about this before, but I grew up two parents with off-farm jobs, and we just had the show pigs that we raised, but we had commercials, so we sold some of the meat hogs on the side. My brother's definitely done that more. And then we had a potload of steers every year. And to me, that wasn't really a farm because I was like, like my parents work off farm, blah, blah, blah. But the longer I'm here, the more people kind of incentivize me to be like, no, that was farming. Like you did grow up doing something. So kudos to you for, understanding maybe you're not, about to send them to the feedlot right now, but you are still on a farm and you are fifth generation. So kudos to you for accepting that because it took me a long time to say, I guess that was a farm. Even if we weren't full time, that was farming.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. That has been like a kind of a harder realization that like, I'm still making a really good impact on society, even with our small family farm. And, I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like that's something even I haven't kind of brought to my own attention that, we are making a great impact on agriculture, even with our small family farm, because all those small family farms are what building agriculture today.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So when you were in your county, what kind of things were you involved in? Were you in other youth organizations? Talk about kind of before you got to Morehead State. What were some things that you did?
Yeah, so throughout high school, of course, I was so active in FFA. I was a chapter officer. I was a regional officer. I served on the state nomination committee for a slate of state officers my senior year. Of course, I did all the events, all the competitions, speech, parliamentary procedure. And I have to give so much credit to my ag teacher for the person I am today. Miss Carrie Davis, she truly shaped me into who I am and my passion for everything that I have. So I'm very grateful for her. I was also a member of Rho Kappa, which is the Social Studies Honor Society. I was a member of HOSA my freshman year, which is Health Occupation Students of America, when I thought I was going to be a nurse, but we are definitely not in the nursing field anymore, let me tell you. So that was a fun experience. And then I also kind of dabbled into the Future Business Leaders of America, kind of that same freshman year. You didn't really know what to do, so you're just joining everything.
So when you were younger and showing, I assume you started in 4-H.
Yes, I started in 4-H. I've had my hands in a halter since I was able to do it, starting at our county fair. And then once I reached middle school, I was like, you know what, let's branch out. So that's when we started hitting all the district and the state shows and jackpot shows and just going from there and broadening my horizons.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've done a lot of different things to improve yourself as a leader, and grow yourself even in the high school ages. So was that a part of your want to be a part of the Collegiate Farm Bureau at Morehead State?
I would say so. So kind of fun fact, I was the person growing up that I never really knew what Kentucky Farm Bureau was. My family, we weren't members. I was the person that always looked at KFB as the insurance. Like I didn't know there was this huge federation aspect to it. So when I got to college, I still have a really good friend. She was an officer of our Collegiate Farm Bureau, and she was like, you need to come to a meeting. Of course, I was going to all the welcome events that first weekend there at school that they are like forcing you to go to, and you're like, oh, why are they making me do this? But so I went and I found out a little bit more about Collegiate Farm Bureau, and then thanks to her kind of giving me that push to like, you need to do this. It's fun. And I mean, like, you're going to grow yourself as a person. So that's kind of how I got my start in Collegiate Farm Bureau.
Very cool. That's neat that's your way into this crazy world of Farm Bureau. What was it about it right away that stuck out to you? What did you think was kind of cool about it?
One thing about Farm Bureau is it's just like a big family. like everyone just gets along, and everyone just wants to help each other. Everything is about growing one another, and I think that's one of the best things about Farm Bureau is I know that I'm the same age as all these people, or we're within the same age range, but I'm going out of my way and I'm helping them get networking opportunities for everyone and not just myself. And I think that's one of the best things about Farm Bureau is you're doing things together and you're not just focusing on yourself, and you're growing and you're learning and you're networking together and you're getting all those opportunities.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Moreheads is so interesting. You guys are one of our oldest chapters, and not that we have really, really old collegiate chapters. This is definitely in the last, decade we've really gotten to bring these up, and some of them are very fresh within the year. So you've been meeting them and networking with them, but Morehead, to an extent, is kind of the one a lot of the other chapters lean on, because you guys have some yearly events, annual pieces you do. You're kind of a staple at the college in the ag department. So talk to us about some of the things you guys do at Morehead that you've been able to be a part of, whether it was just as a member or now kind of helping guide it.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do at every single meeting, we try to bring in an industry professional. So we actually had a meeting on Tuesday, and so we had someone from Kentucky Cattlemen's come in and talk. And then we also, every year at our first meeting in the fall semester, we have Taylor Nash come in and talk. And then we also try and get a representative from a local farm bureau. So like George Heineman, District 10. We usually have him come in. Shout out to George. He's actually from Greene County. He's a great guy. So we are just always bringing new people in. And then something that we started last year that we're hoping to continue through the next couple of years is we have hosted a livestock judging contest. Last year we had probably 75 people. This year we had over 100, close to 200 kids show up. So that was a great event. We had 3 or 4 different states show up. So it was an awesome event. And I have to give a special shout out to my fellow officer members, because they worked their butts off to get that done. And it was a huge success.
I tell you what, this chapter is a big deal. They got Freddie Farm Bureau to come speak to them.
Freddie, yes. So when Taylor came, to our meeting last in the fall, our opening meeting, it was right after State Fair. So he still had the fresh red hair, and he was literally Freddie Farm Bureau at our meeting.
We have a big joke. Poor Taylor.
He's so happy that I just brought this up.
He works the stash, and we're convinced it is simply to make sure everyone can start forgetting he was Freddie. We tell him that all the time. We're like, you're just going to keep it till everybody forgets this happened.
He's one of my favorite for saying yes to that. And we did talk about this. This could be a major problem if you become Freddie and this works.
He's locked in for sure.
He really would like it to go away, and I just made it come right back for this podcast. So sorry, Taylor, if you do listen. I didn't mean to bring it up again. So
no, all good. Okay, so we talked about what you guys do kind of in your chapter there at Morehead. What have you been able to do, and some of this is within the last couple months, when it talks about connecting with other collegiate chapters or starting to get to travel? Talk to us about some of the cool experiences y'all are getting to start doing.
Yeah, so speaking of travel, I just got back from Denver, Colorado, actually. I got home Tuesday night at midnight, actually. So I was out there at the Fusion Conference, and I have to give another shout out to Taylor here for helping me get this opportunity. So I went out there and I worked as a social media ambassador at the Fusion Conference. So I was working amongst 4 other women from California, New York, Indiana, and Texas. They were some of the best people I've ever met. We have like 3 different group chats that we're all texting in now, and even with our bosses that we were working with while we were there. So it was just so cool. So getting that inside look into Fusion with WLC, YFNR, and P&E, but then also getting like the perspective of someone who's just there for the conference itself. That was so cool. And then just getting to meet with everyone there and people from American Farm Bureau was such a great experience. And while I was there, I got to go to Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
So it was so amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally 14,000 feet above elevation, seeing amongst like 3 different states. Like at one point we could literally see Kansas and Nebraska from where we were at. So that was just, that I feel like that kind of changed my viewpoint on life too, because it was like, there's so much out in this world. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I'm still here and I'm making an impact on society. And there's all this out there. So It was truly, I would say it was almost a life-changing experience going out there and
cool.
getting to work and meet with everyone. And now I have 4 new best friends.
Cool. So Fusion, for folks that maybe don't know, is a young farmer event. I don't know fully.
Help us with the acronyms.
What is
You may
actually-
be able to help us. So we've got YF&R, Young Farmer and Rancher. So help us with our other couple acronyms you were working with.
So P&E is promotion and engagement, and then WLC is women's leadership.
Cool.
So they do this every other year. So
Yes.
some years the women have their own meeting and the young farmers have their own meeting. And then that opposite year, they all get together on a fusion. They fuse
Yes.
them all together in the same place. Yes, see that wordplay? So it is, we were talking right before we started podcasting. The women love it. I think the young farmers love it too. I don't mean it that way. But the women always come up to me after and I'm like, oh, how was Denver? And they will immediately be like, we just love meeting the next generation, talking to them, seeing the competitions, which we had some people competing because collegiate competition, correct, is during Fusion or YF&R.
Yes. Yeah, so the collegiate discussion meet was going on while we were there, and then so Kentucky had a representative there, Miss Amelia Tucker. She did an amazing job. I got to sit in and actually capture content from one of her rounds, so that was pretty cool, and getting to watch her do her thing.
So what did your internship entail? Like, what were you kind of doing while you were there? I mean, social media is kind of multifaceted.
Yes.
So were you doing video, photo, posting, all the above? What were you doing?
I did it all pretty
Oh, wow.
much.
Yeah.
So since there was 5 of us, and then of course we were running three different accounts plus, so they were kind of doubled because Facebook and Instagram. So WLC, YF&R, and P&E all had a Facebook and Instagram, and then my task was the Twitter aspect of it all.
X.
X. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know I may not be old, but it's still Twitter. I will always call it Twitter.
Everyone says that. It is Twitter. I don't care what.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was my main account that I was running. But even at that, it was so much just teamwork. So even though I was running X, I was still out capturing content that they were posting on the Instagram or the Facebook, or I was getting videos that were going to be turned into reels to be posted on all their aspects, and then plus running stories for both Facebook and Instagram. And I also got to run a live stream while I was there, which was right up my alley because, fun fact, I worked for a live stream company, which is kind of how I got into media part-time. So I got to help run that for the Final Four discussion meet. So that was really cool, kind of getting back into my comfort zone there with the live stream.
Very cool. Yeah. We've never said this in this little chat we've had. What is a Collegiate Farm Bureau? I think that, in your view, what is this for folks that aren't accustomed to it? I think there are members that are probably listening to this that maybe there's been an emphasis in talking more about the Collegiate Farm Bureaus and trying to emphasize a little more here at the state office and throughout the state. What is a Collegiate Farm Bureau? What do you see it as?
To me, Collegiate Farm Bureau is kind of that stepping stone. Like, you're the kid fresh out of high school. You may have been very active in FFA like I was, and you're like, you think you're gonna go into college and be lost because you're like, I don't know, like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't have competitions running my brain right now. Like, I don't have a speech to go right. But so this is kind of like that building block between your FFA and now you're having these 4 years in Collegiate Farm Bureau, and then you can work your way up into Kentucky Farm Bureau, and you can go serve on your county board, and who knows, maybe one day you'll end up here at the state office or on a state board.
Yeah.
So do you coordinate back with your local Farm Bureau now that, I mean, it sounds like you didn't grow up doing that. So do you feel like you know your people at Greenup County now that you have been involved at Morehead?
Oh, yeah. I talk to them all the time. We text all the time, of course. As soon as I found out I was going out to Denver, they were the first people I texted. I had a little group chat with everyone. I was like, I have exciting news. So, of course, they were all excited. And some of them were out there with me, too. So I was very thankful to have them and, just keep learning more about what's happening and then what I can take back there.
See, I think that's the important part. And we talk about this a lot, that there's a lot of members. So we have many, many, many members in Kentucky Farm Bureau. And I feel like we separate, our farming members versus those that maybe don't farm. So there are farmers that maybe don't have Farm Bureau insurance or don't know about the Federation. And so sometimes they're not members. And so I think it's a really cool, your story's neat to me in the sense that you are what we would have considered, they know about us. Like token farm family, you're at the livestock shows, you see the logo on the side of the ring. Like you have been involved in all these things. and we were missing you somehow. So if Collegiate is just one more way to catch a kid like you, and now what a full circle moment that the first text you send is to your county board, who you had no idea even existed, 6 years ago? So I think that's just an incredible, that right there might be the best pub for Collegiate Farm Bureau of anything else.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for Collegiate Farm Bureau. I don't think that I would be the person I am. Of course, I had all the leadership development and everything throughout high school, but being where I am today, I definitely would not be here without Collegiate Farm Bureau, and I would not have any of the experiences that I've had, or even, I don't think I'd have the confidence to be in here today if it weren't for Collegiate Farm Bureau, because I just feel like I've really stepped out of my comfort zone a lot more, and I've learned that, you need to be like out there. You need to be talking to everyone. It doesn't matter if you don't know them. Just go up and introduce yourself. And that's something I've really gained from Farm Bureau is I'm not afraid to just go up to people and introduce myself, because I know that's how you're going to get far in life, is meeting people, shaking hands. And of course, I have to give a lot of credit to Farm Bureau for helping me learn that.
Yeah. One of the questions I have is just, how's this enhanced your time at Morehead State? Can you even imagine your time at Morehead State without this at this point?
I can't. If it wasn't for Farm Bureau, I wouldn't have met my now roommate and my best friend. We met, I knew who she was because we had a class together, and I'm not even going to lie, she kind of intimidated me. She's from Ohio, so I was like, who is this Ohio girl that I have class with? And then, not the last YFNR conference, but the year before last, I was there. I didn't compete in discussion meet that year, but she was. So that's how we kind of started talking more. And I'm like, this girl's actually really cool. Why was I intimidated of her? And now she's my best friend. We live together. We do everything together. We're each other's biggest fans in life too. So Farm Bureau has definitely brought so much to my life. And even going back to how there's so many different chapters now, how I'm making friends there too. I had a friend, she goes to UK, so an hour-ish from Morehead, not too far. We knew each other somewhat through FFA, and then also at that same conference where I met my now roommate and best friend, that's where we kind of rekindled our friendship there too, and now, we talk every day. Of course, we're an hour away. We don't live together like I do with the other girl, but it's just crazy that if it was not for me going to that conference and getting out of my comfort zone and talking to people, I wouldn't have the people in my life today.
So, and I'm tossing one at you, and that may not go the way I think it is. Did you participate maybe in a day at Frankfurt in the past at all with Collegiate Farm Bureau? Have you been able to participate in any of those?
Yes, I did Legislative Day last year.
So talk through what that experience is like, because I think the networking, camaraderie, professional development you guys do just on the chapter level is incredible, and I don't want to downplay that at all.
Right.
But there's this extra step. There was people from your chapter that were in D.C. with us this year, but I think and that's a phenomenal trip. But I think the coolest one to me is the fact that you guys get your own day in Frankfurt, and it's not combined with anything we're doing. You're not tag teaming with anybody. It is Collegiate Day at the Capitol. So talk to us about what that day involves and kind of what you gain from that.
Yeah, Collegiate Day at Frankfurt last year was so amazing. And I'm so sad they had to cancel it this year because of the snow. But it's okay. We'll be there next year. I don't care what. We'll get with Taylor and we'll be like, it's okay. We'll just plow the snow ourselves and we'll make it there, even if it's like that next year. So it was it's a 2-day event. And so last year we all met at Bluegrass Stockyards and we had a dinner together. And then we met with officials like, of course, Taylor, and then Kyle Kelly came in. And we got to just kind of go through some hot topics right now, like what we want to discuss. And then the next day, we all met at the Capitol, and we got to attend meetings with our legislators from our representatives from our counties. So while I was there, I met with Representative Danny Bentley, who has now retired, and we just talked about what's going on in Greene County and what I think's going on, what I think needs to be changed. And it was kind of a way for them to see that, we're the future. We believe in what's going to happen and what needs to happen. So we're here and we're expressing our thoughts and opinions for you to hear and do what we the people want, getting our voices heard out there on a different level.
Yeah. And that access, you're not going to get that without being a part of the Collegiate Farm Bureau, right?
No, I don't know. I don't know of any other program or club that is just so awesome enough to literally take a whole day and just dedicate it for having the youth, the future of America, have their voices heard. So that's just like so amazing. Kentucky Farm Bureau just does so much, and I know that they care so much about our youth, and it's just it makes you feel valued in life.
Oh, for sure. So you gained all these experiences, and this is the question every college kid hates. So I'm gonna just warn you ahead of time. I'm doing it. What are you thinking? What are your plans after college? What do you want to do? Do you have any kind of direction you're thinking? Because you have gone 100 ways just in this conversation, and it sounds like you've enjoyed all of them. So I don't even know how you're going to decide.
I honestly don't know. That's why I'm doing all this, because I don't know what I want to do yet. Of course, I'm majoring in agribusiness. So I'm getting such a wide variety, and that's why I chose my major, was because I'm hitting every aspect of agriculture through that degree, but I'm also getting the business side of it because I've always been a numbers person, kind of behind the scenes analytics type. But then, of course, I have a marketing minor because over the summer I was able to do an internship with, they were formerly called Showbarn Flicks, but they are now Ringside Live. They go around all across the United States, and they do live streaming at livestock shows. So I was able to intern with them over the summer, and then they brought me on as a part-time technician for live streaming, which is so great. And that's kind of how I found my love for social media and like just getting out there and exploring new adventures. So I don't know where life's going to take me, honestly. I know for sure I will be expanding my family's farm one day. I'm determined to have more land and just keep it growing and keeping the Greene family legacy alive.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, do you recommend this? Do you say to a college student that's at any of these schools that have a chapter, should they do it?
Join Collegiate Farm Bureau?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's the first thing I do if I meet someone new on campus. I'm like, well, you should come to Collegiate Farm Bureau, because the best thing about Collegiate Farm Bureau is you don't have to be an ag major.
Right.
Anyone is welcome at Collegiate Farm Bureau, and that's kind of something that we try to hit with our members and who all we're bringing in. Of course, we're going to focus on the agriculture sectors, but when we're bringing people in, we want to make sure that they're hitting on opportunities kind of outside of agriculture. And, you may, like, for example, we have someone in our chapter who's a very active member. She's a nursing major, but she's still active with Collegiate Farm Bureau. She does everything. She comes to all the meetings. She loves it. So shout out to her for being someone not in the agriculture education field, but still coming out because she still has that passion for agriculture.
Well, I'll give my annual plug that the best advocates out there that hit the masses that we don't hit are a lot of times people that are not in ag fields. And I don't mean that anything against what we're doing, but I've got a sister in social work, and we could not look more different, act more different, sound more different. But you bet your bottom dollar that girl remembers growing up on a farm and that her food is safe. And she meets so many more people in the nonprofit social work world that would never approach me to talk to me. And so kudos to the nursing student, because in the world she will live in of human health, a lot of misconceptions about agriculture will come out. And what a perfect advocate in a room neither you nor I would be in. So shout out to her. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I just talks about your chapter, but where do people get more information? Where did you learn from it? How did you get involved? And if someone was to try to get more information, what do you recommend they do?
I would say just don't be afraid to ask questions. I know, of course, I came in, I didn't know what Collegiate Farm Bureau was. I was just lost. I was just told to show up at the farm at 6 o'clock and come to this meeting. There's going to be food. Of course, we always have food at our meetings.
It is Farm Bureau.
It is Farm Bureau. So there you go.
So just don't be afraid to ask questions. We have a whole CFB manual and guidebook now. I'm not sure if that's on the website or not. That'd be a Taylor question, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But just don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, we're all human.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anywhere, if somebody's like, man, I live close to Morehead, I would love to see what you guys are doing. Do you guys have any kind of social media or pages that they can follow along with, we could put in the show notes for them?
Yes, we have an Instagram and Facebook. I believe Facebook is just Morehead State Collegiate Farm Bureau. And then Instagram is MS or Morehead State CFB, I believe, but we can double check on doing the
we
notes.
we can get that
for
and put it
sure.
in the notes. So
Yeah, so definitely follow along. Our reporter is amazing. She's always keeping updates on there, and that girl knows how to work Canva. Let me tell you, she's good. Shout out to Teslin.
yeah, very good. Well, thank you for traveling in today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure that time change was a bear coming back from Denver. So I hope you have semi-recovered. We threw a time change in just to, we added that hour or took it away. We took it away.
Yeah,
That's
top
tough.
of it. Yeah.
So anyway, we appreciate you being here, driving in, and safe travels back. And we will see lots more of you, it sounds like.
Of course. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. And continue to share CFB with everyone. I hope this can bring some more people in, and maybe we'll start some more chapters going on. I know that's kind of been a trend here recently, starting some new chapters. Maybe we'll get some more.
Very cool. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brooklyn, and thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our larger podcast, Kentucky Farm Life, and we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.